Welcome to Sonido Cumbiaton, a podcast where we talk arts, culture, politics, and all that mess, but with
an undocumented and queer perspective.
My name is DJ Sizzle, and I'm joined by my lovely co-host,
Julio Salgado.
Ella.
Bien así. If you haven't done so, please subscribe to our YouTube channel and share this with a friend, your comadre, your tia, your lover, your primo. Not a Coldplay concert though.
Ooh.
And follow us on social media, TikTok at @cumbiaton_LA and at Sonido Cumbiaton. Meow. Amiga, ¿cómo estás?
Girl, you know what? I am doing better than the CEO at Astronaut. Oh, ¿cómo se dice? Astrologer. Ay, cabrón. Ya me ando volando.
Did you think there were some people like that at the Horóscopos de Durango that were?
Oh, for sure. But girl, I don't know. Like, how is it that like you get caught up like that? And I think the thing is, if we're gonna dive into our pop culture drama, is that I'm like, mira, if y'all would have fucking played it cool, literally nobody would have fucking known. Nobody knows, nobody cares. You did your thing. Well, I mean, the wife might care, right? Don't be a cheater, y'all. Don't be out there thotting and bopping if you have a significant other and you don't communicate that you are in an open relationship, which it seems like they weren't because they got mad, like, frazzled and all of that. That was crazy, but como les digo, like, they should have played it cool and now everyone's lives is out in the open. But you know what? Good for them. Good for their partners if they had respected partners, because, they shouldn't have been doing that if they.
It's basic math. It's basic cheating math. Like, don't put the equation out into the field where people can see you.
Mm-hmm.
Like, hide it. Like our ancestors did it, Like,
no, girl, but that's not okay. We should not condone that shit. You know what I mean? Like, girl, if you're gonna go around, like, at least have the decency to be like, hey, you want to do an open relationship, yes, and if not, well, then, like, let's break it off, because in these instances, it just seems like another person got hurt without them knowing that this was going on. You know what I mean? And that's not cool.
Yeah, no, it's not cool. But or they should have gone to a Horóscopo de Durango concert. How was that, girl? Tell me, amiga, ¿cómo estás? ¿Cómo fue eso?
Girl, it was.
I'm proud of you, girl.
Thank you so much. It was a lot of fun. It was a total vibe. I got to relive my teeny paisa bopper like dream come true. Yes. So if y'all don't know Horóscopos de Durango, they are an iconic, and I do mean iconic, ensemble of regional mexicana with an emphasis on duranguense. They are some of the pioneers of duranguense. They've been around for 50 years, the band, but they brought the girls on at around, in the early 2000s or so. And that's when, the banda boom really started to happen. For those of y'all who lived it back then, right? It's when we got like the Adan Chalino Sanchez, Chalinillo, we got the Jenny Riveras, we got the Valentina Elizaldes, right? And we also got Horóscopos de Durango, right? And this was during my high school era. I don't know if you remember that, Julio, at all during your high school era.
It was actually my college. Well, actually, no, yes. It was like right after high school. And, because, Jenny was down the street in Long Beach.
Yeah.
So we saw her and it was definitely the boom. It was a time. It was like, the man, oh my God, the men that would listen to this, fine. They were toxicos, but fine. They were the dream man. They were the kind of man that you were like, that's who I'm going to marry. Well, no.
Yeah. It was a vibe, and like I think a lot of the people who were present, there was obviously a lot of people during our age that were there in our age group, but there was also, the señoras, and it was really cool to also see like the Gen Zers and below that have, come through the, Mexican regional is what they call it now, but for us it was banda corridos, paisa shit back in the day. That are coming with this new generation of regional Mexican, right? So it was really awesome. It was really cool to be able to play for icons, to be able to open and close for them. And it was a vibe, girl. It was a total vibe. I don't know who showed up with their Sanchos or their Sanchas at the concert. That ain't none of my business, girl. Lo que hagan en su vida es muy su vida y no la mía. But it was a vibe. It was a lot of fun. Pablo went with us. He's our co-producer también of the show. And, my mans came. So we had a little like banda moment. We were dancing. We were having so much fun. And it was a total vibe. Like 10 out of 10 would recommend the concert. The women, the Horóscopos de Durango, Marisol and Vicky, they are so talented, bro. And they look bomb.com. Okay. Shout out to like their fitness people that got them all together. Shout out to them for putting in the work. Also, bodies 10 out of 10. And like you could tell, the comadres hit the gym because them legs were leggings and their arms were flexing. Their talent, not only vocally, but also their, with their instruments was amazing. So if you get a chance to see them live, they're going to come through again during their tour. Es los 50 años que están celebrando, and it's the Antes Muerta que Sencilla Tour de Oro. They're going all over the United States. They kicked it off in Los Angeles. They're going to go down to Mexico. Then they're going to come back. So if you get a chance to see them, watch them. 10 out of 10 would recommend. Y no se olviden de los pasitos duranguenses. A ver cómo, Julio, cómo.
Antes muerta que sencillas. Ay, que sencillas. Oh my God. Well, I'm so proud of you, sister, because that was, they were definitely the girls, right?
Yeah.
And I had no idea that they were like their father
Mm-hmm.
was the one who started the band. That's why I'm like, when I saw 50 years, I was like, wait, what? They look good
Mm-hmm.
for what? I was like, wait, no, the mathing, but it was her dad who
Yeah.
started their dad who started the band. Well,
And they
that was
started in Chicago too.
Chicago, son de
Mm-hmm.
Chicago.
Shout out
Por
to Chicago.
eso, por eso ellas son bien así de que, qué perro, qué,
Uh-huh.
qué me
Yeah.
ves, güey.
Mm-hmm.
We love our Chicago peeps.
We sure
Well,
do.
I could not make it to the concert because as you were preparing for the show, I was driving to the Bay. Let me tell you something. Going back to the Bay, sober, I feel like I'm seeing it from like a different angle. It was me and my husband's 2 year anniversary, and his doggy has been sick, so we didn't. I was like, let's take a break. Let's leave LA for a little bit, and we ended up going to the Bay. And when we get there, I didn't really have a full plan, but I was like, let's go to the Golden Gate Bridge. And in the 5 years that I lived there, I never walked. I think, Jesus, remember when you and I went? There was something happening in the Golden Gate because you and I have a picture there, but we never fully walked the whole thing. And so I feel like I went back and saw it from, seeing the Bay Area with different eyes makes me want to move back to the Bay Area. But I love Long Beach, so I don't think it's ever going to happen. And my husband already said, don't even think about it. But it was beautiful. It was beautiful to see old friends, and have dinner with folks. Jesus and I had a little photo shoot. Jesus, thank you so much. It'd been a while since those photos needed update. So I appreciate Jesus always being my main photographer. Photographer to the stars is Jesus. So if you're in the Bay Area, hit up Jesus for your headshots.
You
Giving
know what? I think I
look.
just might, because my headshots have been around for 5 years. And although, I still love what she looked like 5 years ago, I don't want to be out here catfishing people either. You know what I mean?
But you look the same. I don't know. And I again, not blowing my own horn, but I'm like looking, I'm like, is it because it's me and I don't see the difference? But Jesus, you were telling me that I don't look that different, but I've looked the same for 20 years. So I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing.
That is true. I mean, girl, I had my head shaved 5 years ago, so I had the undercut. Girl, that was a moment, it was a look, it was a vibe.
Te
But that's
mirabas
no
diferente. Yeah, yeah.
I was just a little different. But I'm gonna be hitting up Jesus, and if y'all need some photos, Jesus is not only our co-producer of the show, but he is also an amazing and super talented photographer and filmmaker. So you can always hit him up. So if you need some headshots or you need some roaming pictures of your events, which he does for Cumbiaton, also check it out at Cumbiaton_LA. You can find all of his pictures of our amazing event coverage. But he also does a bunch of things. And we are lucky to work with Jesus. And I'm glad that he beautified you. I got the sneak peeks of Julio's shots. And girl, he worked miracles on you, baby.
Excuse me? It's not that hard when you're working with this canvas. But so on top of that, even though like I'm on a mini vacation, time from my main gig job, I'm also doing side gigs. We're artists, we're hustlers, we do side gigs. And one of my favorite gigs that I'm currently working on for the LA Times, from Delos from the LA Times, I have a monthly comic strip called Good Immigrant, Bad Immigrant. And this yesterday, I got to interview for my next episode for Good Immigrant, Bad Immigrant. I got to interview the one and only Tsunami Muse, who was a contestant for season 16 of RuPaul's Drag Race. And in our conversation, for those of you who don't know, Tsunami Muse was born in Panama. And for her season, her and another one of the contestants, Geneva Carr, share that they were DACA recipients. And for all the years that I've been watching this show, I always, part of me hoped that DACA was, I don't know, I'm like, when is the DACA girl going to be part of the show? And they made history by being part of the show last season. And recently, Tsunami made an announcement on Instagram saying that she was done here, and she was like, you know what, it's been great, y'all, but I'm going back to Panama. I'm getting a lot of opportunities to travel the world, and being here in the US with DACA is limiting my opportunities, so I'm going back to Panama. And I won't spoil the story that I'm gonna write for Tsunami, but she's got a very interesting story, badass. But this got me thinking about choices, right? And the lack thereof, or the choices that we are made to choose, given our status as immigrants, queer, and so I thought for our next segment, we would talk about that. Choices. What are your choices? What do you think about choices? And yeah, so when you think about choices, and I'm gonna open it, Jesus is gonna join us in this conversation about choices. What does it come to you, and both as an immigrant and as artists? What do you think about when you think about choices? Sissel, do you want to kick us off?
Yes, of course. That's the elephant in the room, right? During the current circumstances that a lot of immigrants are living in, right? The choice to stay here and kind of, just aguantar, right? Everything that is going on politically, socially, right? Because history is repeating itself, unfortunately. And for whatever reason, this society, this country doesn't seem to learn from it, which is very concerning. And ultimately, we all have to make a choice whether we want to write it out and just see what the outcome of this point of history will be, or like many people are choosing to do, including Tsunami, including American citizens, right? Which is just being like, nah, fam, I'm not going to go through all of this right now, right? So I think it's a very valid and important topic that we're covering today as it pertains to, our livelihoods, because it's hard, right? It's hard to make the choice to kind of uproot yourself from everything that you've ever known and go to a different, space and try your life somewhere else. But it's also interesting because that's exactly what our parents had to do, probably right around our age, right? But no, they did not have the language mobility. They probably most likely didn't have the social and economic mobility that I think a lot of folks like us would probably have, right? And for me, it is a choice that, we've been contemplating more than anything for my parents, right? Like, it's one of these things that I'm like, well, I would love for them to go back and like experience their family once again, their siblings, right? And this is not just me, like, oh, parents, you, right? But it comes out of them where they're like, hey, like, the plan was, yes, try and make a life, and if it worked out, great. But if it didn't, we were going to come back home, right? Like, so what are we doing in a place that, is actively vilifying us, hunting us, and telling us, not anything that, is necessarily new to us, but like you would think maybe things would have changed, right? Like you think of going forward, you think of progress, you don't think of regression, right? So that's something that we've been thinking about. And, I have always been a super committed and supportive, like, daughter to my parents. And for me to be away from them, I'm like, I don't know, fam. I don't know that that's necessarily the reality that I want to live through. So, thinking of different ways and different choices, right? Is it going to be that we are all going to collectively just be like, okay, let's try and figure it out here? Or is it going to be that we are contemplating a different choice where, as Tsunami is mentioning, she is free, right? She still gets to do her artistry, right? And one of these things, it's a dicho, it's a saying that I have recently just taken a lot to heart, which is el perico es verde donde sea, right? Which in English is basically the parrot is green wherever it goes, right? And my understanding of that is I will be who I am no matter where I'm at, whether it's in Los Angeles, whether it's in the Bay Area, whether it's in New York, whether it's in Chicago, whether it's in Texas, whether it's in Mexico. I will still be me with all of my flaws, but also all of my artistry and all of my badassery. I don't know, right? Todo eso, I will still be me wherever it is that I am at. So that's kind of like the things that, we have been thinking about, we've been talking about as a family, contemplating different options, right? And I'm interested to see if either of y'all have had any of those conversations with your own families, with your own significant others, and how that has changed from maybe 10 years ago when we were young immigrants to now as, transitioning elder, like whole as adult immigrants.
Elder,
Not the
not
elders.
the elders. Jesus, what are your thoughts on this? Have you been contemplating this?
Yeah, I think what first came to mind is I remember doing an interview with a Mexican media station. Um, and I think in the scope of that conversation, I forget who was asking me this question, who the interviewer was, but the crux of it was this was when DACA was on the chopping block, and the way that she was wording the question was kind of pressing for like, if you get sent back to Mexico, your whole life has been here in the US. And like the subtext was, hey, throw Mexico under the bus. Hey, you're from Mexico, but in all essence, in how you grew up, your politics, everything about you, because you grew up in the US, by all intents and purposes, according to Mexicans, you're American. And if you were to return to Mexico, in many ways, you would be an extranjero. You would be an American living on Mexican soil, despite the fact that your birth certificate says otherwise. And so the way that she was formatting the question, it made me feel like she was saying, like, come on, throw Mexico under the bus. This is
Mm.
going to be for the betterment of you, for the betterment of the US. You belong in the US. Fuck it. Throw Mexico under the bus. And I remember as carefully as I could maneuvering that conversation and reverting it back to this idea of choice. Because being involved in the immigrants' rights movement, it wasn't necessarily, at least for me, it wasn't about wanting to solidify a position so that we could stay in the US for our benefit and for the benefit of our families. That was just a part of it. The whole idea was to humanize the situation and to speak about choice. If I were to return to Mexico, it would be because I had made the choice. And I don't necessarily think that as I'm hearing the scope of this conversation and the way that I'm talking to my parents about it, it doesn't feel like a choice. It feels like there is a deadline. Um, and I'm not trying to draw the parallels between the US and it's this particular fascist regime that we're living under, and that of Nazi Germany. But there was a point in time in Nazi Germany where they sealed their borders, and whoever did not get out when the getting out was good suffered the consequences. And so I'm like, is there a deadline, a specific deadline that's coming up that we should probably think about and get out before we're unable to get out? And then whatever happens to us ends up happening to us. So it doesn't feel like a choice. It simply feels like, are we gonna make that decision to self-deport before we're unable to do it ourselves? Um, and that is, I think, the main crux of what keeps me up at night. Because I don't want my parents to be in a fucked up situation. I don't want family members to be in a fucked up situation. So then I'm thinking through, all right, if I make this choice now, what does that look like? How will I thrive? I don't know the culture out there. You know, when I talk to my parents, specifically my mom, both of my parents grew up in Mexico City. You know, I'm like, Mom, we could explore this option and we could figure out a way to live our lives out there. And she just kind of looks at me and she's like, man, your Spanish is so pocho, they will eat you up over there. They'll eat you up and spit you back out. You don't know what you're getting yourself into. But then I'm like, yeah, Mom, but y'all did it. Y'all came over here not even knowing the language and y'all were able to thrive. And so then she says to me, the times are very, very different, Jesus. When we came, it was a whole different time, different politics, different everything. It was a time when back then folks were able to, like the men and the women, in terms of gender roles, like my father was able to support a household on one salary. And as we got older, that became more and more difficult. So my mother then had to enter the workforce. So I'm like, yeah, the times are very different now. And so she's like, if you think Mexico back then was difficult to live and thrive, it's a little bit more difficult now. A lot has changed. And so then that gives me a sense of dread where I'm like, then I don't know. I don't know what I'm getting myself into when thinking through these choices. So that's where I'm at.
Yeah, I hear you, Jesus, because this idea of being forced to make a choice, right? Um, but in speaking to Tsunami, um, I was like, did you feel like you were forced to make? She's like, I wanted better for myself. And there's this idea, the way that we are thinking of Mexico of being this country that, oh my God, like, am I gonna have a culture clash? Am I gonna be, am I gonna be able to live the American dream, right? But if you think about it in this country, I'm like, are we living the American dream? Are we ever going to get to buy a house, get to, those are dreams. They're called a dream for a reason, right? Then reality hits you. And I think similar to what Sissel said, you're gonna be the person you're gonna be what in any part of the world, because we're just talking about Mexico, but there's other countries. Like Mexico is not the only country in the world, right? However, I will at this, I am not the kind, I'm a Virgo. Y'all know I'm a Virgo, and I don't make any choice lightly. Um, I could never do something like that without a full, research. We are in a very different situation than our parents. Like we have more privileges. We speak two languages. I know your Spanish is a little pocho, Jesus. I've heard you talk about it. I make fun of you all the time, but you speak it, right? And te defiendes.
Yeah, me
So
hago
there,
entender for
te das a
sure.
entender. Te entiende la gente. La gente que tú le hablas en español te entiende. But we are no lawyers, by the way. This is no legal advice. I would say the whole idea I think for me the whole idea of seeing the world as a choice is kind of changing your mindset of feeling like you are stuck, because I know this may sound very like self-helpy, but really it in speaking to her and speaking to other people, because I'm hearing of other people too that have done the same, that all of a sudden they have the same fears and then their life changed. I don't think I could do that. Like I am happy here. My choice is to fight and figure it out how to change, the lives of my people here and continue to speak up until me digan que me calle, right? And so I think one of the things that is happening right now, and again, speak to a lawyer, whether your immigration status is different, look at the different choices, right? Like speak to legal, to folks who can give you legal advice about what choices realistically do you have, right? You might be married and don't even know that you might be afraid to apply. There's different things. So I think for me is the fact that there are people who really don't have any choice, and there are people who like us. I think we are in a different, very privileged situation where things could work out a little bit different. But again, because we've grown up with this fear of limitation, whether because of our immigration status, there's citizens who came from families who are poor, right? Everybody has different situations, but this mind shift is really hard to move away from when you all of your life you've dealt with this, right? And so again, I personally don't think that that is not in my radar. I do not want to leave. I don't want to go back. I want to go back on my own, right? I want to be able to take my time, like Jesus, you were mentioning it. I don't want to feel like this is trust upon me. And so my choice is to let's see what choices I continue to have now as an adult. Now with this, the current administration that is happening, right? So yeah, I think it really depends. 100% depends on the privileges that you have. In Tsunami's case, she was like, I had a whole ass TV show to give me a platform, and now I'm having all kinds of opportunities. But she's also from Panama, and she was saying that if you're from Panama, you don't need a visa to visit other countries around the world, right? So doing that kind of research as you make your choices is extremely important. I would never advise to make a choice based on gut and I'll figure it out. I could never do that. Like due diligence in making your choices. All of our lives consist of a bunch of choices that we've made, right? I know that. And so I think, yeah, changing this mindset to choices, even if it's coming from a Delulu, the Lulu point of view.
Absolutely. And I totally hear you on that. I think, you both hit very valid points, concerns, right? But I also do just want to bring back and highlight, right, that our lives are so starkly different than the lives of folks who migrated from Mexico, let's just say from a rancho or from, poverty or for a super underdeveloped or underserved community, right? Like with very little to no, kind of maybe future or monetary advancements that they can do, right? Some of our parents had full on careers, right? They made different choices that unfortunately, because, of life circumstances, might have not been the best, right? They made choices that weren't the best. Shout out to my dad. But, I think it's also something to bring towards, just kind of the conversation is to highlight that, a lot of people are going to project their own fears onto you based on their own lived experience, right? And I think it's important to also take that into account and take whatever advice that you have, although, none of it is legal. And again, we go back into that, right? None of it is legal advice. It's just person to person, family to family. But it's one of those things that I've also had to learn to yes, I will hear your concern, right? Because to you and your experience, that was totally valid, right? But to me and my experience and my current lifestyle, it's completely different, right? Like if I had listened to as many times as maybe my parents or others had told me, oh, no, don't do this because of X, Y, and Z, or, esto va a pasar, or X, Y, whatever, right? Like, then I would let fear just kind of cripple me, right? Or just get a hold of me where I am not able to move. I am not able to make these logical decisions. So that's one of the things that I also want to bring forth is that yes, Mexico was also very different 20, 30, 40 years ago than it is right now, right? As we're seeing Mexico and other countries, other parts of the world are going through different revamps and different leadership changes where you're just like, oh man, like that is looking like a much better option than what we have right here, right? So I definitely do kind of want to bring that back into the conversation and also, just kind of reiterating, like for me, yes, I would love to go back to Mexico, visit, that's my home, that's my birthplace. But girl, I don't see me staying there for a long time. I'll be there for a couple years and then go down to like Brazil or maybe, Centro America or, go to Italy and, have my little eat, pray, love moment over there, have wine, pasta, go to Greece, have all the Greek food, right? That's where I see myself, not just somewhere. And I think that's, people are different, but that's why I'm bringing into the conversation that that's where I see myself, just traveling different places, right? Because for me, I feel like I've been limited for so long just to, this space right here that I'm just like, no, fam, like I want to go out there and live my life, see this world in its entirety for what it is. Could you imagine ramen in Tokyo? Girl, sushi in Japan? Get out of
Woo!
here. So that's where my choices are. I'm like, girl, y aquí, ¿qué me voy a quedar a comer aquí? Hamburguesa y que me digan, estúpida, tú no perteneces. This is my country, not yours. Girl, have your racist hamburger and your stinky ass fries. I'm gonna go out there and be culture, baby.
Yeah, whatever. At the end of the day, right? Like, again, this is going back to a. This is not legal advice. Whatever decision you make, please,
You said that many times.
especially if you are in a precarious immigration status, speak to a lawyer. There's plenty of organizations that offer free advice, and look at your choices. Right? What choices do you have? And if you do end up leaving, let us know how that is going. Right? I think it's important. Life is not black and white. Life is a mix of colors. And if you're a hateful person, you're gonna be hateful anywhere in the world. If you're a happy-go-lucky person, you're gonna be happy-go-lucky anywhere in the world, right? But at the end of the day, embracing that choice and making that choice yours, whether it's staying here, like I'm gonna do, right? I'm gonna stay here. I have no plans on leaving until I'm able to. Or if you decide to leave, right? Like owning the fact that you do have a choice, even if that choice it's not it doesn't yield the results that you are hoping for, but changing that mindset. And so well, do you have, and before we close it up, we're at a 20-minute mark of our conversation. Is there anything that you want to say, anything else about choices?
Yes.
Yes, go for it.
I just wanted to just piggyback off of what Cecil was saying. Well, first and foremost, I am a peleonero. This is my home. This is the home that I've known, and I want to remain here and fight for what I believe is mine. Um, but also, I think in the scope of our experiences here in the US, the Hala de Oro thing comes into play a whole lot.
Mhm.
And that is also another factor, another variable in making this decision or thinking through these choices, as Julio says. Um, there is a whole world out there that I've wanted to explore. I always saw myself as somebody who would travel the world as a photographer, as a videographer, to explore the world, to explore other cultures, other contexts, to hear live music in different parts of Africa, throughout Central and South America. I wanted to backpack through Europe, the white kid dream immediately after high school, but before college. I wanted to go into these remote areas in Asia and take amazing landscape photos. That's always what I saw for myself. And now I'm in my early 40s and I have not done any of that. Granted, I love my life here, but if I were to leave, it would be very difficult for me to return. And so I'm like, do I abandon this life that I love, but is very limited, or do I throw the dice and see what happens to my dreams and the way that I imagine my life playing out if I were to leave? And it always goes back to like, yeah, it's this golden cage situation. I like my life here. I like the circumstances that I currently live. I like the opportunities that I've been able to take advantage of and create for myself. So can this be interpreted and manifested in a different format, in a different permutation if I were to leave?
Mhm.
Nobody knows. Nobody knows. All I know is that que yo soy peleonero, and if it ends up being a situation where I have to bounce, I'm fairly certain that there is enough of us to, I don't know, build a community outside of the borders of this country to help each other live out what we were meant to live out. And Julio, one final point. I think, are we going to be the in-betweens? Are we going to be gentrifying wherever it is that we go? I think that for people like us and in our experience, I think that we'll forever be living in the borderlands.
Mm,
Ni de aquí, ni de allá. So it's a matter of just embracing who we are
yeah.
and then taking that with us wherever we go. I think it's an invaluable experience.
Yes. And lastly, this is the last thing, and maybe we could pick it up at our next episode, but I think this is one of those things that we should be paying attention to. There's actually already quite a few people that are doing that, right? Tsunami. There's también el muchacho que fue a Harvard, who's also married to a U.S. citizen. There's about, I want to say 5 or 8 folks that are actively, kind of documenting their experience back into the motherland, back into reintegration of, being raised here, undocumented, and then having to go back, right? So I would be interested in seeing if maybe possibly we can get one of them to come onto the podcast and share what their experience has been like, right? Because there are people already doing it, right? So I also want to bring that into the conversation that, we'll definitely not be the first ones, right?
Mhm.
But there are folks that are already slowly but surely laying down that foundation and laying down that path of like what it's looking like for them. So just to kind of wrap this up and bring that into consideration for a potential next episode.
I love it.
I would love that.
Let's hit up Otros Dreamers en Acción, which is a group in Mexico City, and they've helped folks who end up self-deporting or getting deported, and they're doing amazing work in Mexico City. So
Hey, Julio,
definitely,
talk to your homie. Talk to your girl, Tsunami. Can we get Tsunami on this podcast?
yeah,
Ooh, that
yeah.
would be great.
I'm gonna ask her. I'm like, hey, girl, come through. Ew. Well, that was thank you so much for this beautiful conversation, which again, for you listeners, we know that you're probably thinking about it. Give us your thoughts. Let us know what you're thinking about this and what do you see yourself what are your choices, in
Mhm.
life? All right, for our next segment, which I've called it, I don't know, y'all can find me. I'm calling it What's on Your Cultural Rotation, which is like my way of saying, what are you listening to? What are you watching? Give me the cheese man. What should I be watching? For mine, I'll start. I've been hate watching and just like that, which is a spin-off of Sex and the City for all my girlies out there who love Sex and the City, who grew up in the late 90s, early 2000s. The show came out in 1998. I thought it came out like in the early 2000s, but I was like, no, I was in high school when that show came out. And I remember it was so spicy because Cynthia Nixon which was one of the characters, was in this movie about a kid who escapes, and I forget the name of the movie. Anyways, then next thing you know, she was, showing her titties in Sex and the City. So, but I've been and just like that, it kind of, it picks up, the ladies out in their late 50s. I love, the idea of what it's like to be in, around that age, being a woman, seeing your choices, you're dating. I mean, it's already dating at any age, right? But what does it mean to date at that age? My problem with the new spin-off, is Samantha's not there. Samantha said, "I'm done with this show." There
She
was
kind of
drama.
is a little bit.
Well, she was, yeah. You're right. In the last
No, no, no. I
season,
mean, like, as in they replaced her with a different character. So she's her, I
ish. Ish.
ish
Yeah.
type,
She
type.
actually did she did make a cameo in the last season for like one scene. She got paid like $1 million, for to be in that scene.
Really?
But yeah,
Yeah, they
but
have
my
no money for
issue,
that fucking show.
yeah, my issue with this show, as I'm hate watching, is very I'm like, why are these women acting like they're teenagers? They're like older women making really bad choices. I'm like, am I? Because I feel like I'm a different person, dating wise, in my love life than I was 5, 10 years ago. And I'm like, is this not? Are they not? What is happening? Also, like, nobody, because now they're like rich. They went from like living in small apartments. So I'm like, is this what happens to all people in New York if they become rich? I'm sure the people that lived there for a long time would, say otherwise. But yeah, I've been hate watching that show and I can't stop. And
I
that's
love that white woman drama.
I love it.
Okay, Sex in the
You
City.
you have thoughts.
Of course, I have so many thoughts. I've been hate watching that show too. I actually threw in the towel. Season 3, episode 1. There was so much that I couldn't get over. I'm like, this show is a far cry from what it used to be, even from its first season. But even that first season was terrible. And I know we're talking about white women shows. That in itself is a whole conversation. But for me, on a personal level, I watch it because it takes me out of my own life. I'm like, oh, let's watch fantasy. To me, it's akin to watching a show with a dragon, honestly. That's how unrealistic it is. But the first season I thought was palatable enough.
Yeah.
I started to see the character development, particularly in the main characters like Carrie, for instance, where I'm like, oh, she's not the main character anymore, kind of, but sort of. But anyway, by the time we get to this third season, I just feel like there are less writers in that writers' room, and everything is incredibly agenda driven. That it's hard to stick to the story because I'm just like, oh, this is somebody, a social justice warrior, really fighting in the writers' room to insert this particular agenda, and it all feels incredibly disjointed. The characters, I believe that as I get older, my essence of who I was in my teen years and in my 20s and throughout my 30s still sort of remains, uh, including my flaws. Every day I strive to change and I strive to do better for myself, right? But in my essence, I'm still the same person. That's not true for these characters. They're entirely different. They are whole other people. And I'm like, that just feeds into the whole idea of how this is not a realistic show whatsoever, and it's terrible. It's absolutely terrible. So for me, I just been hate watching it because then I go on my WhatsApp with my sister and I talk shit about it. And then
And
I've been enjoying all the TikToks as well of people who just tearing the show down because it
yeah,
sucks.
and my last take on this. Sarah Jessica Parker was recently on Las Culturistas, and Matt Rogers was like going off. It's like how can Carrie make such a bad choices, and this show is very different. And Sarah Jessica Parker, who eventually has become a producer, and like clearly had a lot of thoughts on how this show would move towards. She did say she was like, well, if we had made a perfect character without flaws, would people tune in? Like, what is the point of creating a show? Nobody's life is perfect, but the point of a show, it's like what makes you continue to come back and watch it. And she said that, it's a fantasy world. It's not real. And so it is about getting us from a realistic, life. So anyways,
But why destroy the canon of the original characters
it's a
to make
it's a different show. It's 100%. There was the original show, there were the
right?
movies, and then there were the current version
Like
of
it's
Sex and the
Sizzle,
City.
it's just like what the
This
hell is
was like
No,
over.
I listen, y'all, as the only self-identifying woman on this podcast and still having two men try and be like, well, why do women like this? I'm like, no, first of all, like I have not, nor do I plan on supporting like anything that romanticizes, fantasizes white woman life. Like I just cannot relate at any point in life and time. So that's not something that I will be giving my time and energy into watching, no matter how bad, no matter how like pop culture-y it is. Like I literally cannot sit and watch something like that.
Then
So,
Vito, I'll pop the popcorn.
huh?
Then Vito and I'll pop the popcorn.
We
No,
should we
no.
should have next time in the Bay. Let's have a watch show, a watch
Well, can
party.
we watch some like culturally like relevant stuff? Like, and again, it's all about making choices, right? I have the choice to watch something that is produced for and by people of color. Why am I going to make the choice to continue to give ratings to white women shows that are terrible? Like, I'm not going to do that. You know what I mean?
You're
For me,
you're right.
again, and I will always be the person like that be like, bitch, no, hell no. Like let's give our views, let's make the choice to invest within our own communities, our own like programs. And that's one of the reasons, unfortunately, why, you see the cancellation of different shows, whether on Netflix, whether on Hulu, whether on HBO, right? Because it feels like there is not enough Latin support for the TV shows, the series, the movies that come out, right? So I definitely want to be one of the people that continue to uplift and continue to highlight, right? People of color, TV shows, movies, music, right? So for my cultural rotation, what is on my cultural rotation? Because I feel that, for music, for me, it's always been my kind of bread and butter. I'm not one to sit through watching a whole bunch of, just TV or movies just as is. But for me, recently, the things that have been on my playlist a lot have been regional Mexican, right? Again, going back into like things that give my heart and like my culture so much joy and so much passion. And it is, like the banda, corridos. I had the opportunity to play at La Onda a couple of months ago, maybe early June, and it was a
Last month.
girl. It just seems, oh my God, with everything happening, it just seems all crazy. But it was so cool to see and I have like little clips and stuff on my own personal Instagram page. Pero tanta gente, it was just so beautiful to see people living, rejoicing, dancing, singing. And we're talking about things from our childhood, right? We are talking about like music that we all grew up listening to. And it was just so beautiful to be in an environment where you're just like, damn, dude, like this is what it is right here. Like, this is it right here. This is that feeling of belonging. This is the feeling of like, you could be singing a song and right next to you, a señora is like singing in that same song with you, and a chiquilla right next to you is singing the same song with you. You don't know each other, but you're connecting culturally through that. And that for me has been such a like gift with everything that is happening, right? To be able to connect with people in that sense. And for me, that's what it's all about. The cultural part of things is connecting with people, right? And maybe that's why I don't necessarily like identify so much with like the white women shows that y'all watch, because it's very like, I can't like I can't comprehend it, you know, like I don't identify with that. So it's not something that I necessarily can just kind of stomach. But what has been on my cultural rotation again has been things that, you know, make me feel connected to my people and my culture.
And I feel honestly like with the music that is coming back from, as you said, from our time, right? Like now I'm seeing TikTok, I'm seeing like all, not just Latinos, but like white folks like from around the world using like sonidos like from like Horóscopos de Durango on their TikToks. And like part of me gets a little like, girl, what do you know about Horóscopos de Durangos? But then part of me is like, oh my God, yes, like they, this is the thing where when you have your favorite band in high school and then like all of a sudden they go mainstream and you're kind of like, I knew them before you knew them. Like that's how I feel. But like to see that the music, that we grew up, whether it's banda, like lo que sea, right now with Mentiras, that TV show with the 80s, the 80s Spanish music that's making a big return from Amanda Miguel, Yuri. And I'm like, oh my God, I used to listen to that. And like now the Gen Z is putting it on their TikToks. There's something so beautiful and makes me think like, oh, I was right the whole time. I had good taste the whole time. You were just not born yet. And so I love that, all the things that we're watching, whether we weren't into it or not, that we are united, by hate watching something or by listening to something. At the end of the day, the importance of culture, the importance of TV shows, the importance of music, is what's gonna bring us all together at the end of
It's
the
art.
day. It's art,
Art's gonna keep us
period.
together. Although I do think that Cecil is right, because I was just remembering a scene from And Just Like That, they had a Beatles song playing in the background. And to license a Beatles song, it is not cheap. It's at least $500,000. So when I heard that song playing in the background of this stupid ass, dumbass show, I'm like, these fucking people have hella
How
money.
money?
And they're just squandering it for this fucking scene that means nothing in the grand scheme of our lives. So maybe we need to be voting with our wallets and with our time and uplifting our people and uplifting content that actually legitimately makes us feel good versus rage baiting us into watching something that fucking sucks and then talking about it and complaining about it on a podcast.
I
So
fall for it every single time. They hit on and I thought I had learned by watching all this like remake. They brought back Will and Grace. They brought back, like a lot of the shows from, my youth. And I'm like, why? That's why I'm afraid of watching The Devil's Wear Prada, the
oh,
second
don't. I'm
part. I'm
I
like, are
will
they gonna ruin that movie too?
Yes, they are. I'll save you the drama, girl. Yes, they are.
I mean, when's the last time that you saw a revamp that
That was
didn't
good.
ruin the original? I can't think of a single one, honestly.
Oh no. On
So why
that,
why do we keep doing that to ourselves?
I don't
Let's
know.
not. Let's not feed into the McDonaldization of media.
Don't you judge me for being rarita and being basic.
Only judge me can God.
Don't you judge me. Don't you judge me.
Only
Y'all,
God can judge me, girl. Come on, get it together.
that is our show
I
because
expect
the girls are
nothing but
judging us
judgment from all y'all.
all in in good spirits.
Dude, I love the fact that Julio tried his hardest to be like, yes, only judge me can God. He tried so hard just to be like, yeah, girl, I'm behind you on
Sure. No. Well, that was nice.
That was cute, y'all. And honestly, watch whatever y'all want, even if it's white women shows. If it brings you peace, if it brings you comfort, I am just gonna be the sour patch that is always gonna be like, well. But
Well,
thank you both for
okay, if
sharing.
you okay, I'll add one more thing before we go. Another thing that is from our culture. Are y'all watching the Chavo del Ocho series? So
I
they
haven't just
they
yet.
made it into a series, and girl,
It's good.
oh my
The
God,
drama.
the drama, the Florinda Mesa with Roberto Bolaños and how she was like la otra. It's very novelized. She's kind of being villainized right now on the internet, Florinda Mesa, for like getting with this married man. But if you want to watch something from your culture and you love drama, El Chavo del Ocho, Fue sin
Hell
querer
yeah.
queriendo, the
What
series.
platform is that on?
It's on the HBO Max Plus, VH1. I don't know what they're calling it now. They're calling it now. They're going back to HBO. So
Girl, I saw a meme que pusieron Ángela Aguirre's grandma.
Aguilar.
Yeah, Ángela Aguilar's grandma, Florinda Mesa, and I was like, oh shit, that's her grandma?
No,
It's not, pero sí se parecen, güey, sí se
es que
parecen.
les gusta su relación. She was very
Ah,
that. She was the original. Me gusta su relación.
fan de
Yeah,
su
fan
relación.
de su relación. Yeah.
Ah,
It's it's
okay.
it's I mean I've always loved a behind the scenes moment, and
Mhm,
like it tells the story of Roberto Bola. I mean the fact that his son produced the story, it's very like pro Chespirito, and
mhm.
like this idea of how he was a good man and it was like this other woman. But Florinda Mesa's not making a good case for her by going and like sharing her side of the story. But I'm like, get a better PR girl, because we know how they love to vilify women out here. So she needs a better
Mhm.
PR moment or group to like get her side of the story out there, because I want to hear her side of the story.
See, our people can be dramatics, can be cheaters, can be messy, even at, I don't know how old they were at that point, but
Girl, they were
see,
in their 40s, and this is in the 70s. Like Roberto Gomez Bolaños was like my age when he started Chespirito. So there's hope for everyone, girl.
girl, y tú sabes que we all have that friend who is in their 40s that is, a little bit messier than any of us would like to admit. That's why we don't kick it with them like that no more. Because we No te hagas, no te hagas que everybody has that friend. And if you
I was
don't
that
know who
friend.
that is,
I was
it
that
might be
friend.
you, girl. It
I
might
was
be
that
you. I'm just
friend.
saying.
I was that friend for a while. Anyways, we're going off topic here. This is a different choice that we're making. Thank y'all so much for tuning in. This is our show. Please subscribe, give this video a like, share with your friends, and come back on the next episode of Sonido Cumbiaton. Muchas gracias.
Thank you. And remember, Mercury is in retrograde. Whatever you do, do not text your ex. Okay, bye.
Adios.